newest generation, which is the least formed of all the dolls, still waiting to take its place. So there's a lot of great value that's been passed down, consciously, unconsciously. We maybe had lessons that we wanted to teach our children, and we did so, verbally. There were tons of lessons that we taught non-verbally. Some of those were good, some of them probably not so much. And what I saw happening with me is that, and really I'm still becoming aware of the extent to which this plays out, but this idea of compensation. And this relates to the expression of the divine feminine that I am today. I injured my knee a long time ago, and I realized that over time what's happened is I started to walk a little bit different. The tissues, the structure of my leg shifted a little bit to accommodate the injury. I started relying more on the other side and using it to support the structures of my body differently. Until it got to the point where I didn't even realize how much compensation had taken place in my life. And I think in a way, with all this women's liberation movement and trying to find a new way to be feminine, there was some of this compensation that moved into it. And I had a job where I was very much needing to make decisions and have a very linear approach. I think part of that was because that was what made sense to my dad. That's what was of value to my father. And so those aspects of myself became very strong. I'm grateful for that. I'm not saying that was a bad thing, but I think that I overbalanced. And so my daughter was actually really a part of coming back to this feminine nature within myself. For one thing, motherhood will tend to do that to you. And then for another, like I look back, I used to have really, really short hair. I did not want to deal with my hair. I actually almost ridiculed pink fluffiness, laciness. Like somehow that was wrong. It became wrong as a result of having been raised in this, no, that's not what you should want. You should be, women's power. And so I denied this whole other aspect to myself. She actually is the one that taught me about hair irons, which allowed me to, again, have longer hair, which it doesn't really make a difference about what length your hair is or isn't. It's more about why, what is it you're choosing to express with yourself? And so I realized I was actually getting in touch with this feminineness within me that I think I had actually crippled in a little bit of a way. So I look at aspects of the divine feminine, and in this there's very much a Madonna energy, a very sweet, mother-loving, nurturing energy, but divine feminine is about way more than that. There's actually an aspect of the divine feminine that's pictured here somewhat, that's the crone, who's that wise woman, that very wise woman that resides within us. There's an aspect of the wise woman, the crone, that's known as Baba Yaga. Have you ever heard any of the folk tales of Baba Yaga? She's this woman that is actually hideously ugly by physical standards. She lives in this house with the little chicken legs, and the house moves around and turns. She's often a creature that people go to get the answers to something, and she knows. And she's not going to be swayed by someone speaking nicely to her. She's not going to be swayed by sweet talk. She's not going to be swayed by politeness that is only a surface veneer. She wants the truth, and she'll give you the truth. But she won't do it in a way that is soft and gentle. She just, this is it. This is what's demanded of you. And so I'm really kind of playing with that and recognizing that aspect of the divine feminine, the part of me that doesn't really care what someone else thinks and isn't making choices just because I wanted to meet someone else's expectations or to be okay in some patriarchal idea of what's right. It's very interesting. I'm still growing up, and here I am middle age. Sorry, sweetie. Welcome to the world. So some of the places that my Baba Yaga energy, where it's asked me, or some questions about, where are the places that I've allowed this idea, this feminine script, to be implanted within me, and where I've let that script, that unquestioned script, inform my choices and the way I want to be in the world. What are they? And some of them, I have to actually laugh at some of them, because if I didn't, I would cry. Some of them are quite painful when you see them. And after, maybe I'll go ahead and I'll cry, and then I can laugh about it afterwards. But part of it is that for years, it was expected and desired to have your firstborn child be a son. So what is it with that? And I know it was very much that way when I was born. That it was still thought that, oh, you want your first child to be a boy. And so you're born as a female with a slight disappointment already that, oh, you weren't a son. And so there's some aspects of ourselves that maybe play into that. And I'm not saying my parents did that. I'm not saying that they would even be aware of it to this day. They would probably say they didn't do it, but it's so pervasive in the culture. And if you start listening for it, you can hear it. You can hear it everywhere.
Well, I'll say it.
Yeah, you say it? Oh. The idea that Father knows best, you know, the idea, because, I mean, that's the television we watched. Father knew best. Now you got The Simpsons, you know, it's a totally different aspect about it.
Now it's kids know best.
Yeah, now it's the kids know best. The
Yeah.
kids are the wise ones. Yeah, well, sometimes the pendulum has to swing. You know, and now it kind of breaks my heart to see the masculine treated in that way. You know, it just seems wrong to me. The idea of trying to be the favored daughter, like those places where I was really wanting approval. And where does that play out in me still to this day? You know, it still is at play. The times where, you know, for one thing, I remember the Simpson snails and puppy dog tails, you know, that's what little boys are made of, and girls are sugar and spice and everything nice. You know, that was still very much at play when I was a child. And the idea that you should be, you know, if you can't think of anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. You know, how many times have I, like, clamped down on what my authentic voice might have been, you know, my willingness to speak up for something that maybe was not just because it wasn't going to be pretty. You know, it's interesting to kind of look at these things. So that's what the Baba Yaga points out to you. If you're willing to look, you can see these things and begin to live your life from a more authentic place. This is not just about women. I know that men carry this as well, the places that are not authentically their voice because of how they were raised. And it's not just parents, it's in culture, it's in the media, it's everywhere around us. So much of what we do in New Thought is all about dissolving patterns and coming up with new ways to see our lives, new ways to be if we choose to do so. We have complete freedom to change our thinking as we become aware. And I would actually like to be able to take a little bit of time in our discussion period today to just kind of take a look at, you know, the divine feminine in ourselves. You know, it may be that spiritual aspect of the divine